So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to share my screen. I think I can do that. Can everyone hear me and see me okay? Let me know if you can't see my slides once I start sharing.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. Welcome for hopping in on Wednesday. I know, you've got sometimes better things to do. So, it's good that you're hopping in and wanting to really learn about how you can up-level your wellness and learn about the importance of brain health. Now, this is such a passionate topic for me, and it probably is for many people out there. Because if you've got any loved ones that have gone through Alzheimer's, dementia, even close ones who are going through severe depression, it is such an important topic in regards to how we can optimize our health so that we can even reverse some of those issues and even prevent those in our later years. All right, so just quickly about me, for those that don't know me, I've been a natural health practitioner for 13 years. I'm also a master NLP health coach, hypnotherapist, and my passion is around women's health, longevity, aging, and stress. So I've written several ebooks and I've got a published book on basically how we can live a long and healthy life. So if anyone would love to read a copy of my ebook, I've got some amazing tips on how we can 20 tips on how we can live healthier, live longer, then yeah, I think just reach out to me and I'm happy to send that through. So just a really fun fact, did you know that the brain itself basically contains approximately 100 billion neurons? Like, that's just unfathomable. Just how much energy is required for the brain to function, how many neurons, electrical signals is going on each and every day, and so much is happening, right? The brain is our most powerful organ. Without the brain, nothing will function, right? So we have to really make sure we are taking care of the most important organ in the body. It does so much for us, and you'll see why. So here's some really cool brain facts. If you don't know, here's some really cool things to think about. The adult brain weighs about 3 pounds, so it's about 1.5 kilos. The brain will grow 3 times its size in just the first year of life. So that's why it's so important. Now they're finding more research, but in that first year and even in preconception, because I do a lot with women's health and fertility, that in that first year of life to really nurture and look after the brain health of your child. And also in the womb as well, because it's the first thing that grows is the brain, the nervous system. And it continues to grow until you're 18 years old. So after 18, it kind of stays the same size until your adult life. Information runs between these neurons. We talked about there's 100 billion in your brain from everything that we see, that we think, that we do. And the human brain actually starts losing its memory abilities and cognitive function in your late 20s. So we should be definitely starting to look after our brain health, definitely by the time we're 30, if we haven't already. A lot of teenagers, 20s, they're not really taking care of their health as much because their body is generally in a quite fit, healthy state, right? It's quite new, teenagers and 20s, you don't tend to have too many issues. You can eat a lot of junk food and still be fine. But as soon as you start hitting your 30s, 40s, and 50s, it can creep up depending on how you've been looking after your health in your 20s, right? So when people get sick or chronic illness happens, it didn't happen overnight. The main thing that it was basically in your 20s and 30s, you weren't looking after your health. Even early teenage years, it creeps up and it catches up with you, and it starts to rear its ugly head, usually in its 30s, 40s. As well, depending on how you've been looking after yourself. Your brain uses 20 to 25% of the body's oxygen and blood, right? So huge. It needs to do so much on an energetic level that it needs so much of the oxygen and blood in your body. And the brain uses the most energy out of all the organs in your entire body, right? And that is what we call the mitochondria. So we have to really learn to keep the mitochondria healthy, and we'll talk about that later, because it powers your brain and your brain powers everything in your nervous system. Your 75% of the brain is actually water. So not many people drink nearly enough water, and we'll see how that can affect your health. So yeah, your brain is made out of mainly water, and the brain can heal and regenerate. So some really interesting facts to take into mind. So what sort of diseases are associated with the brain? What can happen? So we can get basically neurodegenerative and slow deterioration of the brain if we're not looking after it in our younger years, right? Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia, ALS. So if you know anyone, close family circle, pop a 1 in the chat if you've seen, mother or grandmother go through, Alzheimer's and dementia. It is very debilitating, and, it's a lot of, it puts a lot of strain and pressure on family members. I've got clients, or I'm sure everyone knows someone with a parent with Alzheimer's and dementia, and it's not something you want to see your parents go through, or even yourself go through in your later years. So we can actually prevent that by taking care of our brains as young as we can. So what are the symptoms? They generally have memory loss, anxiety, agitation, mood change, and depression. What other cognitive brain issues can occur if you're not taking care of your health? Well, you can get depression, and mental health has been so big over the last 2 years, especially with the COVID pandemics. We're not getting, a lot of social interaction with family. We're not taking care of our health. We're not doing the things that we used to do pre-COVID, right? So everyone's always talking about mental health, right? And they're things that we can really do to take care of ourselves so that we're not going down that path, right? So depression is huge. Mental health, the government and lots of people around the world are throwing so much money into taking care of mental health because it's such a big topic. But if you understand how to take care of it, we don't have to go down that route, or you're not going to see severe symptoms of mental health issues. So things like depression, anxiety, bipolar, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, schizophrenia. They're all things that we can help to improve and even minimize with the right sort of health around taking care of our brains. So you'll see things like changes in behavior. It can happen slowly, or it can happen quite quickly. It can affect our thoughts, our mood, and our memory and cognitive function. So what are some of the causes that can basically create some of those mental health changes, neurodegenerative illnesses, right? It comes down to basically a couple of main things, and it's mainly the inflammation in our brain, right? We call it neuroinflammatory. And this comes from oxidative stress, oxidative damage from all the free radicals in our, in our environment, in our food. So free radicals and oxidative damage that does basically inflames our brain. So we come across oxidative stress day in, day out, right? But it's how the brain, if you come across too much of it and you're not detoxifying properly, it's going to inflame the brain. And that will create, oxidative stress, right? The other thing that's quite big is brain toxicity, right? We have a blood-brain barrier, and certain things can cross that to basically cause inflammation in the brain. Things like fluoride, right? Fluoride in the water, fluoride in our toothpaste has actually been shown to create inflammation. Mercury and other heavy metals, so mercury, aluminium, lead, cadmium, they are very bad, and they can create toxicity because they cross the blood-brain barrier and actually gets embedded into the brain itself and creates inflammation. So one of the things, if you've never checked, if you've got any sort of mercury fillings, or if you've had these fillings in your teeth done from years and years ago, right? It could be usually the last decade hasn't been so bad because they've realized that, a lot of those gold tooths or any of those teeth that you have are actually leaching mercury and heavy metals into your blood 24/7, into your brain 24/7. So if you're not sure, I'd suggest you go and check with your holistic dentist and get them removed. Get them removed by a proper holistic dentist. So if someone's got issues with brain health, they want to check the heavy metals. That's one thing. You can do a heavy metal test. You can contact me if you're not sure how you could do that, or you can find some providers or naturopaths that can test your heavy metals. So that's one thing I definitely check, because that can create inflammation in the brain. And heavy metals are a very hard way of actually pulling out because it's heavy and it embeds itself into the brain. So one of the things I get my clients to check if they haven't done a heavy metals test is to check what their levels are. Secondly, if you've got a family history of mental health conditions, that can exacerbate that, right? And you can actually also get it from family history. Traumatic or stressful life experiences will create, imbalances in the brain chemistry, which can create neurodegeneration, inflammation. History of alcohol and drugs, if you've actually been through a brain injury, like a car accident or things like that, that's created, or even people that are playing, very strong contact sports, such as, football or anything, boxing, right? That's why all those hits to the head is actually creating micro trauma every time you're getting smacked to the head or something like that. So yeah, no one should be doing, sort of boxing or any of those sort of contact sports where your brain is getting pounded every single time, because every time you're doing that, you're creating, microscopic injury to the brain. Poor diet and poor sleep. So poor diet, we can talk about why that is the case, because it's creating a lot of inflammation in your gut, and then there's a gut-brain connection. And also poor sleep, because when you're sleeping and you're not taking care of your sleep hygiene and getting a good sort of 6 to 8 hours of solid sleep, your brain, that's the time when you're sleeping, is when your brain is actually detoxing. It's dumping all the toxins. It's reducing, it's basically going through a strong detoxification process when you're sleeping, right? And it's allowing your body to sort of rebalance, regenerate, right? All the neurons, everything is sort of regenerating. So when you're not sleeping well, your brain isn't able to detox properly, and your body isn't able to detox through other digestive system as well. So you've got that connection with the gut and the brain. So poor sleep will lead to definitely problems with your health as well as brain health as well. So what can we do on a basic day-to-day life of basically taking care of our health, right? So the first thing I suggest is cutting sugar, processed foods. So even dementia or Alzheimer's, they're actually calling it diabetes 3, right? Because a lot of the problem is they're found to have a lot of sugar in their diet, and that's inflaming their system, and it's creating an imbalance in their brain as well. So any sort of sugar processed food is not good for your general health as well as brain health, right? Gluten is actually an inflammatory process and inflames brain health as well. So it creates inflammation in the brain. If we're not drinking enough water, so we spoke that the brain is 75% water. So the first thing when people say they've got depression, anxiety, I always ask how much water you're drinking. And most of the time, if you just ask that basic question, how much are you drinking? They generally are not drinking nearly enough, right? Because if you're having coffee and tea, you're actually losing water. So it's a diuretic, what we call diuretic. So it's pulling water out of your system. So you really need to make sure you are drinking on average at least 3 liters of water for an average like 70 kilo person. So if you're 50 kilos, 2 liters, if you're 75 kilos, at least 3 liters of water. So you really need to be making sure you are drinking copious amounts of water to help with your brain, as well as, flushing out your digestive system. Eating cruciferous vegetables, right? So they're high in antioxidants, right? It helps brain health. We need to eat healthy fats, because actually our brain is made up of a lot of fats, our brain and our heart, right? It's basically from omega-3s, right? It helps with anti-inflammation. So we need to eat the right fats. And we need to take care of our sleep hygiene. So we really need to make sure we are doing our best to get that 6 to 7 hours of sleep. And if you're not getting good sleep, you need to look at what the root cause of that is, right? And making sure you're correcting that so you're getting good sleep in the nighttime. And exercise, right? When we're doing exercise, both on a physical level, right? We're getting rid of the stress hormones, right? We're allowing our body to sleep better at night, but also mental exercises. To take care of our brain, we need to do puzzles, right? We need to be reading. We need to challenge ourselves with different mental crosswords and Sudoku or anything like that to keep our mind sharp, right? Even if you're doing something that's challenging, puzzles, whatever it is, right? We need to also be exercising our brains as well as our physical body, because if you don't use it, you lose it, like they say. So if you're not taking care of your brain through stimulation, then you're going to lose some of that sort of sharpness as you age. And reducing stress, because stress is a cause of inflammation. It's a cause of a lot of issues, mood swings, all of that. And if you're usually stressed, you're going to eat bad foods and not sleep very well. So all of those things, like doing things like meditation, and that is going to help reduce your stress. So what are the benefits of omega-3? So omega-3 is an essential fatty acid, and it's necessary for all of these things. But the main thing is brain function, right? Omega-3s are really good for eye health, brain health, heart health, right? So it's going to help to be good for your brain function. It's going to help with your eyesight. It's going to help with healthy skin and joints, reduce inflammation. And it's important for pregnant women and nursing mothers because it helps to stimulate the baby's brain. It helps to make sure the brain is well grown. There's no issues with sort of brain development and the neurosystem. It's going to make sure the baby's heart and You know, all of those things are, you know, are going to be in perfect condition as well. It helps to burn stored fat because it basically helps to reduce the toxicity, helps to burn the fat in your body. So, you know, there's a saying that goes, if you want to lose fat, you've got to eat fat. So, but good fats, we're talking about omega-3s, which are high in anti-inflammation. Suppresses appetite. So if you've had a really good meal, you know, like a really fatty fish, you know, something that's a really good, you know, meal high in omega-3s, it's actually very satiating, right? It actually suppresses your appetite to eat the wrong foods because you feel satisfied, you're not needing to eat more junk. It's good for the immune system, nervous system, and it's a natural hormone replacement as well. So knowing your omega-3 index, now pop A2 in the chat if anyone has ever tested their omega-3 index, right? So there's some great test kits out there. If you're not sure, you can message me. I can show you some of the test kits that you can do, which is what a blood spot test is. You need to test your levels, right? Because the optimal levels of omega-3 is between 8 to 12%. And that shows that you've got the essential fatty acids of omega-3 in your blood. Now, when you've got low levels, right, it basically shows that you've got low levels, which is basically inflammation in the brain, inflammation in the cells, and that can affect your overall health, as well as your eye health, your brain health, and your heart health over time, because you've got those high inflammatory markers. So if you've never had your omega-3 levels tested, I would definitely get those tested to check you're in the optimal levels. And then so you know what you're doing is basically keeping your levels high. So yeah, that would be the first thing I check if you've never had it looked at. It would be good to show, you know, that basically you are at good levels. And then from that, you may need to increase your omega-3s. You may need to basically look at what's happening in your diet as to why it's contributing to inflammatory markers of your omega-3s being so under the optimal levels. And look, most people are under the optimal levels, right? And if you can test them early and know what your omega-3 index is before it gets too late, you can prevent things like dementia and all of those neurodegenerative problems that we spoke about. So what must you take for optimal brain health, right? You need, number one thing is omega-3 fats, right? You've got to take either a fish oil or be, you know, upping your doses of fish each week with EPAs and DHA. You need to take CoQ10 because CoQ10 is what drives the mitochondrial health in our bodies, right? Keeps our brain healthy. Vitamin D is really important for your immune and for anti-inflammation as well. Glutathione. So glutathione is a master antioxidant, right? It helps to detox the system from all those heavy metals, all the free radicals that are coming in contact with us each and every day. Magnesium. Magnesium is really good. Magnesium is used for over 300 different functions in the body. And most people are magnesium deficient, right? It's good for sort of helping with stress and helping with making sure your body is, you know, sort of circulation's better and all of that. So it's helping with so many different things. And your B vitamins. So B vitamins are necessary for your brain health as well. So taking either a multi-B or something. But look, speak to any healthcare practitioner if you're not sure on the dosing and what you should be taking and if it's interfering with some of your other medications. But they're a general list. And if you're taking those every single day, there's usually no problem because they're all natural and what your body needs naturally anyway. So what I like is this particular omega-3 is one of them that I suggest to my clients. It's got a unique blend of omega-3 fatty acids. So this LifeVantage Omega Plus, they've just changed their packaging. It's got omega-3 fatty acids as well as omega-7 fatty acids, and it's got your dose of vitamin D3, which we spoke about, which is also necessary for immune health and for general brain health and heart health as well. So each serving contains roughly 1,500 milligrams of omega-3, providing you the recommended 500 milligrams of EPA and DHA. And this particular brand, they use cold water fish, which is 100% traceable from your boat to the bottle. So they know exactly where the fish has come from. And like we said, omega-3 will help to support your brain health, cardiovascular health, skin health, and your immune system. And then this one here, look, if you're not taking something for like a CoQ10 for your mitochondrial health, because we talked about just how important it is to take care of the mitochondria, because that's the energy. Your brain exerts so much energy in trying to keep your body healthy that we need to make sure we're taking care of our mitochondrial health. So LifeVantage's Pro Tandem NRF1 Synergizer has CoQ10 in it. which helps with your mitochondria. It's also got acetyl L-carnitine, which also helps to boost mitochondria, and quercetin, which protects the mitochondrial health. So the NRF2 and the CoQ10 basically will help your brain to detox, because when your brain is detoxing, it requires that mitochondrial function, right? It's dumping all the toxic stress, free radicals that it comes in contact with. It needs to make sure the mitochondria is really healthy. So we need to make sure that that is kept to a minimum and to decrease the free radicals, because if you've got too much free radicals, too much oxidative stress, that is what's going to create inflammation in the brain. So that takes me to the end of the presentation. I will see if there's any questions. So hopefully you learnt quite a few things. But if anyone's got any questions, yeah, just unmute and see if I can answer those for you.
I have a question.
Yes, Helen.
So if somebody has got the beginning stages of either, you know, your Alzheimer's or dementia and stuff, like that first spaghetti bitties, how much will the NRF2 or activating and taking the omegas?
So I had a client who had dementia and Alzheimer's. He was in his late 70s. And the first thing I did was I tested his omega-3 levels. To be honest, get them tested, because you don't know how much to dose someone if you don't know where their levels are at. So to get a blood spot test, naturopaths can do it. I can send you test kits. I've got a good company that do test kits as well. But yeah, get your hands on a test kit, first of all, because when I had my client come in, omega-3 was meant to be somewhere between 8 to 12%. He was down at like 2%. His inflammation was through the roof, and he was in his 70s. So he needs to actually even double or triple or quadruple the doses of omega-3s, right? So just taking the standard dose for someone that is already well into Alzheimer's or dementia may not make a dent, because if they're just on the 2 to 4 capsules like you and I, but he's got Alzheimer's and dementia, he's going to have to definitely up his omega-3. Now, not only will he just supplement with that, he needs to also have fish in his diet, avocado. He needs to do all of the other things we spoke about. He needs to make sure he's on glutathione, CoQ10, right? All of those things as a supplementation, but he's got to make sure he's also working on those things that we spoke about in the diet, cutting out the gluten, the sugar, because we know that you can't supplement or activate your body into good health if you're not starting with the basic building blocks of diet. So if he's still eating a lot of sugar, he's drinking a lot of alcohol, and you're just giving him the CoQ10 or the fish oil, that's still not going to make a difference, right? But I have seen people reverse, and there's definitely, you can see a lot of studies on reversing Alzheimer's and dementia, depending on how far they are and how much you're dosing them, provided they do all those things. That's why I say to make sure you test your levels as early as you can. Like I test my levels each and every year to make sure I'm staying at those optimal levels, right? Because if as soon as it starts declining, you might need to double your dose, triple your dose, look at what else is inflammatory. Another thing that people aren't aware of is cooking oils, right? When you're cooking with some of the bad oils, you can elevate your omega-6, which is a pro-inflammatory that's actually creating more inflammation. So I could be talking about this topic for like, you know, probably 2 hours isn't even enough to cover so many things about diet and lifestyle. But look, basically one of the things that I go through and I comb through people's diet is their is with the oils they're cooking with, right? And just off the top of my list, if you're using things like vegetable oil, sunflower oil, canola oil, any of those, you know, bad, highly processed oils, that is actually contributing to a high level of omega-6. So when you do an omega-3 test, they look at your levels of omega-6 versus omega-3, because if you've got a lot of pro-inflammatory markers in your body, it's going to reduce your omega-3, which is the anti-inflammatory. So they look at what they call omega-6-3 ratio, right? So you're looking at basically what your omega-6 ratio is compared to omega-3. And the ratio should be, you know, something like 3 to 1, 4 to 1, as low as possible. That guy who had dementia, his omega-3 index was something like 2%, but his omega-6-3 ratio was something like 24 to 1. It was off the charts, right? So it's showing me he's got a lot of inflammation in his brain. So to get that down, and anyone, look, you don't have to be having Alzheimer's and dementia to have extremely high levels of omega-6-3. I've done someone who's just in their late 20s who's got diabetes and high blood pressure in their late 20s, early 30s, and they're also off the charts. It's like 12 to 1 or something like that. So we want to bring it down to as close as we can to being within optimal levels. So that would be the number one thing, is like if they haven't had tested and they're showing the first signs of Alzheimer's, dementia, I would definitely check what their levels are, or get them to go to see.
Did you say a normal doctor isn't going to check the omega-3 levels? It needs to be through a practitioner.
It has to be through a practitioner. I can send you who I use. I've got some great kits. I can send anywhere Australia wide. I think some of them around the world as well. I can send certain companies do it. They can send it to most countries. So, or you can see a naturopath. But I think, yeah, if you go through, I can do it. I can send you links. It's not a problem. So just contact me if anyone would like to get their omega-3s checked. It's not only that, it's also to check that if you are taking your omega-3s every day, you are eating fish, to see if you are at those optimal levels, because you may need to double or triple your dose, or you need to have more fish. I mean, you might need to have fish every second day, right, to actually get your levels up, as well as dosing with omega-3.
I don't eat fish much.
Yeah, so then if you're not eating fish much, what about avocados, healthy fats, right? You've got other good oils like avocado oil, nuts, seeds, chia seeds, coconut oil, all of those things.
Okay.
If you don't eat fish much and you're just taking an omega-3, chances are your levels are probably not optimal. So to avoid any neurodegenerative disorders, heart health, all of that, it's a good idea to check where you're at, because then you can see, oh my gosh, and I get people to double, triple dose for a while and then check their levels again. So we have something what we call a 120-day blood cycle. So you can actually then check again in 3 to 4 months. And if you are doing all the right things, your levels will be back up to normal within 3 to 6 months, generally. Unless you've got Alzheimer's, dementia, you're looking at maybe 12 months, right? Some people have taken, I've seen about 12 to 18 months to get back into optimal ranges. So the earlier you start to know what your levels are, the quicker you can get on top of it and stay on top. You're never going to get Alzheimer's and dementia if you've got perfect omega-3 levels. That's just a fact, because your brain is not inflamed, right? It comes down to that. So yeah. And then you've got to look at your diet. Okay, if your levels are high, what am I eating that's causing inflammation? Gluten, sugar, alcohol. You know, I'm not having the right foods. I'm not sleeping well. So many things, right? That's just one piece of the puzzle. But you've got to nut down, and then that's where you work with natural health practitioners to find out what the cause is, or you try to work it out on your own. But yeah, that's where I'll start. So hopefully that answers your question. A long way to answer it, but you got everyone. I'm sure that was a question that everyone could sort of benefit in learning.
Oh, thank you. That was really awesome information. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have any questions or anything they weren't sure of? But yeah, look, that's really important. I think I think everyone should be getting their levels tested just to see where you're sitting in terms of your own brain health. And remember, omega-3s is in our brain, in our heart, in our eyes. That's why even in the I See Bright, some of the other things include doses of omega EPAs and DHAs, which are an essential fatty acid, because it's going to help with your eye health. So people's eyes who are declining, and now with everyone in front of the computer screens, the fish oils will help our eyes to stay healthy, right? So that we can avoid, having macular degeneration, which is actually a big thing that is happening with people right now, is that. So look, fish oil is really important, but not only do we just need to take fish oil, we need to make sure we're adopting some healthy omega-3s. And if you're vegetarian or vegan, you can get algae fish oil, or you can get, I don't think LifeVantage makes it, but some companies do make like an algae version of it, right? But you can still get a lot of that through your diet. You can have lots of doses of avocado oil, avocados, chia seeds, flax seeds, all of that is vegan, vegetarian. So people go, oh, but I'm vegetarian and I don't eat fish. Then you've got to make sure you're having it through the diet. Or you can find, I've got an alternative, which is omega-3, but made from algae. So it's just as high in EPA and DHA for those who are vegetarian. Cataracts, yeah, obviously, yeah, cataracts. So there's a huge relationship between omega-3s and cataracts. If you check their omega-3 levels, I will guarantee you their omega-3 levels are quite low. Cataracts is also sun damage as well, right? It's also people that are not putting on sunglasses. So please, if you go out in the sun, if you want to protect your eyes, wear sunglasses every single day that you're out in the sun, because it's really sensitive to your eyes. So people that are, having that sun damage to their eyes. Also, look, there's a few other reasons why, but old age, also sun damage. So my father goes on a yearly tour to Cambodia. He does some charity work, and they go with 50 doctors that does cataract operations for free in these remote areas in Cambodia. He's been doing it for about 10 years now. He hasn't done the last 2 years with COVID, but hopefully I can get back to it. But yeah, that's a big thing. The doctors are always saying, some of the top eye specialists are like, wear sunglasses, you know, take omega-3s to make sure there's no inflammation in the eye. So taking an omega-3 will help your eye health, like cataracts and macular degeneration. Yeah, glutathione is very important for your brain health, because remember, we've got a lot of heavy metals in our body. So glutathione will help to detox the heavy metals, right? And to basically neutralize the free radicals, which is what is damaging our brains at a rapid rate. And as we age, we're taking on more free radicals, as well as our brain health is needing to detox more. So if you need to make sure you're having something like, I love the LifeVantage NRF2 because it's a very powerful glutathione antioxidant, right? And that will neutralize some of the free radicals. But also there's other things that's not just that we need to incorporate to actually eliminate heavy metals. So unless you know what your levels of heavy metals are, and I do a very basic test, but you can get them, you know, tested as well. If you want to know more, just contact me. You can check where your levels of heavy metals are. And that is really important to know, because there needs a little bit more work done if you've got high levels of heavy metals. So I had a guy who was an engineer, he was a welder. He'd already had pancreatic cancer, liver cancer, all sorts of, like 2 different cancers. He was also a very big alcohol drinker. He had like a bottle of port almost every single night. And when we measured his heavy metals, his was through the roof, right? It was red in every single heavy metal almost, because that was part of his job. And also the cancer, you know, it wasn't good. Obviously cancer, if you've got heavy metals, that impacts your immune system. So yeah, look, that's one thing that's affecting the brain. I've seen with people who've got autism, autoimmune, I see a lot of little kids recently. I don't know if they're all coming to me, but there's a lot of autistic kids that I've seen recently, about 4 or 5 autistic kids. And we've checked their levels of heavy metals and they're through the roof. So that's where it comes back to, when you're in the womb, if you're pregnant, or if you know friends or families that are, to make sure that they are, you know, on the right things to make sure the heavy metals are reduced, to avoid or to minimize things like brain health in kids. So even autism, that can be minimal, like you can actually improve a lot of the symptoms. Like just even the little kids that I'm seeing, just in 3-4 weeks, they've changed a lot already, and they've, you know, they've been having those issues for like six years. So just in 3-4 weeks of changing a few things, their parents have noticed a difference in their mood, in, you know, a few things, their mood, their concentration, and that. So yeah, it's affecting the brain health, right? Autoimmune, autism, and that. So by having high doses of the right fish oil and looking at heavy metals is one thing, but yeah, it's not always the answer, but it's definitely part of the puzzle as to get on top of those few things. All right, was there any other questions? If not, thank you all for jumping on. Reach out if there was any questions or anything you wanted to know more on. Yes, Helen. Oh, you just wait. Okay, just waiting. All right, thank you all for hopping on, and yeah, I'll speak to you all very soon. Thanks so much.